afternoon, everyone. ये वो वाला था ना, वो वाला पेन, ब्लैक वाला पेन चलेगा शायद, वैसे ही है। कोई नहीं, ये चालू नहीं। पुरुषोत्तम, ये चालू नहीं हो रहा। I'll quickly revise Köppen's classification. Introduction. Classification is a way of organizing the climate. It is an example of the scientific organization of the climatic patterns. There are two ways of classification: genetic, based on genesis and origin, and dusra hai empirical, that is based on observations. The classifications we do are an example of an empirical classifications. The classifications are of three main geographers or climatologists here. Köppen, the first one, took the idea from vegetation map of Candolle because he believed vegetation and the climate are exactly correlated, and therefore he took the vegetation map of Candolle. Fine. Based on the vegetation map of Candolle, he has divided the provinces into 5 types: A, B, C, D, E, out of which A, C, D, E are based on temperature, while B is based on moisture, because he believed in two things: moisture and temperature. These are the provinces which are found in the tropical region. These are the desert provinces or semi-desert. These are the temperate regions, warm temperate, this is cool temperate, and this is the polar regions. So the A type is further divided into A, F, that is which will get the rainfall throughout the year. There is no winter season, fine, or what we'll say as a tropical type of climate. A, W, that is winter dry, W stands for winter dry. S stands for summer dry, that is dry summers. And he has called one special type of climate, that is M stands for monsoonal type of climate. Fine, AM is monsoon type of climate. Clear? Then he says B type of climate are of two types. S based on steppe, semi-arid, and W because Run in German language means desert, and therefore W stands for desert. Why did he not take D? Why he take W? Because desert in German language starts from W. Bas itna hi yaad rakho. Based on this, there are two subtopics here, H and K. He classifies the climates into H and K. That is B, S, H, B, S, K. Cold deserts and, the cold steppes and the savanna, that is the tropical steppes. And then W into B, W, H, deserts, BWK, continental deserts. एक है trade wind deserts and दूसरा है the continental deserts. Fine. Continental deserts को if you understand this, if you go back to this our answer, you will see the word is written as mid latitude deserts. Fine. Underline करो mid latitude deserts को and देखो एक past year questions in the GS prelims. ये है mid latitude deserts, cold deserts. Fine. कौन सा है? Give me an example of the mid latitude deserts. Give me any example of the mid latitude desert for mid latitude desert, cold deserts of the world. Gobi desert, Mongolia, Tibetan desert, India, right? These are the mid latitude deserts. Tibet etc. will be mid latitude deserts. अब prelims में पूछा गया था question, mid latitude deserts are always located in the regions where the trade winds are offshore and they are washed by cold currents. True or false? are always located in the regions जहाँ पे trade winds are offshore and they are washed by the cold currents. No. Deserts are of two types in the world. We'll take an example. Mid-latitude deserts and the trade wind deserts. Kalahari ho, Nabib ho, etc. These are washed by the cold currents. 0 degree equator hai ye. The trade wind deserts are different. It is the BWH, jahan pe cold currents and trade winds are offshore. Fine? Not BWK. BWK is the mid-latitude deserts. They are desert due to different reasons. Maybe winds hi nahi pahunchti wahan pe. Fine? Because of the Himalayas. Therefore, mid-latitude deserts. So, ऐसी गलतियां नहीं करनी चाहिए prelims में. They generally ask sometimes a conceptual question. It is the trade wind deserts which are always located near the coasts. जहाँ पे trade winds are offshore and the washed by cold currents and they are located in the horse latitudes. Fine. Then he says C type of a climate. कौन सा isotherm? 18 degree Celsius isotherm, and it is divided into C, F, British type of climate due to onshore westerlies. It is divided into CS and CW. The CS is summers dry, means winter rainfall, and this is what is the Mediterranean type of climate. Fine? Mediterranean type of climate. The D type of climate is divided into two. What is the D type of climate? What are the two divisions of D type of climate? D, F and D, W. So S and M ये exceptions है, याद रखना. A में है M and S is present only in the C type of climate. DF, rainfall through precipitation throughout the year. Why? We have done just in the two lectures before that, we have completed the concept of fronts. There are the concepts of fronts here which gives the precipitation throughout the year, and DW are located in the continental interiors. Because of this, they have having extreme climate, and because of the extreme climate in these regions, convectional rainfall occurs during the summer season, and we have DW, and then we have E capital T and E capital F. Right? This is what is the Trevartha ka classification. Sorry, this is what the Köppen-ka classification on the world climate. Fine? Advantages we have written. Tell me the disadvantage. Disadvantages. Thoda dimag lagao. It is too simplistic, right? दूसरा, ठीक है. तीसरा, so you take the first example, demerits of Köppen. सबसे पहले, the most important demerit, there is undue importance to temperature and precipitation, more than ज़्यादा importance to temperature and precipitation. Undue importance to temperature and precipitation, but he neglects other elements such as winds. He neglects other elements such as winds, cloudiness, temperature extremes, etc. Understanding? Winds QREA, why there are winds, why this is there is no mention. Temperature and precipitation. Fine? Second, the same point में continuation. The climate ignores the role of, the classification ignores the role of air masses and jet streams. The classification ignores the role of air masses and jet streams. Role of air masses and jet streams. And there, which forms the basis of modern climatology, which forms the basis of modern climatology. Which forms the basis of modern climatology. Which forms the basis of modern climatology. Third, the use of letter symbols, was criticized being too complex. But close observation reveals that scheme is easy to understand. Close observation reveals that scheme is easy to understand. Is it true or false? ये लाइन इट इज पहले लगता है ये ए बी डब्ल्यू एच क्या है, बाद में पता लगता है कुछ भी नहीं है. इट इज वेरी वेरी इजी टू अंडरस्टैंड. इसमें डीमेरिट में इसलिए लिखा क्योंकि ये क्रिटिसाइज किया था इनिशियली. मतलब इसमें दोनों पॉइंट है, क्रिटिकल एनालिसिस आएगा तो ये इसमें दोनों पॉइंट है. आप यू कैन राइट इट इन इवन इन द मेरिट्स. नेक्स्ट, most geographers are still skeptical. As there is no complete relationship between vegetation and climate. Understanding this line, जरूरी नहीं कि जहाँ जो vegetation है वहाँ पे exactly वैसा ही climate होना चाहिए. For example, in North India we have large number of sandalwood trees, but they were planted by Britishers. Fine, that is not the vegetation for the sandalwood trees. You have in your house in India Christmas tree. Fine. So suppose today we all get destroyed, and आगे जाके the climatologist will get the fossils of the Christmas tree. Can they conclude by this कि नहीं यहाँ पे तो ice age था, this was not a tropical region. Fine. Understanding what my point is, there is not always a close relationship between vegetation and climate. In the same point, त्रिवर्ता ने इंडिया का डिवीजन अलग है, कोपेन का भी अलग है, स्टैम्प का भी अलग है, त्रिवर्ता का भी अलग है, थॉर्नवाइट का भी अलग है. वो मैं इंडियन ज्योग्राफी में करूँगा. स्केप्टिकल मतलब क्या होता है? Skeptical means not convinced, not very much convinced. Due to the anthropogenic impacts, the boundaries of climate and vegetation which were rigidly determined by Köppen, which were rigidly determined by the Köppen. Are fast changing. Understanding this point, we are causing the climate change and therefore vegetation will also is dispersing and fast changing. Conclusion क्या लिखोगे? और critical analysis. His merits are better than the demerits and therefore it is still accepted. Fine. Conclusion में despite the fact of imperfection which Köppen himself said, वो खुद कहता था कि this is imperfect. इसलिए उसने 4 बार रिवाइज किया. If you see this, that is because he always thought that it is imperfect, which he himself said. The merits of Köppen's classification, score over the demerits, and therefore Trevartha rejected Thornwhite's classification, Thornwhite's classification, Thornwhite's, Thornwhite's classification. And modified the Köppen's classification. Thornwhite's classification. प्रॉपर ध्यान से, त्रेवार्था बहुत आसान है, बट थॉर्नवाइट प्रॉपर ध्यान से. मैं पहले मेन वर्ड्स बताऊंगा. That first is, it is complex and empirical. Don't write anything. तो सबसे पहले वर्ड है, it is highly complex classification. Fine. It is also an example of an empirical classification. Empirical means it is based on observations. And see, whenever there are empirical classification, there is always going to be an observer's bias. What do you mean by observer's bias? You go and watch any fact. उसके बाद how you interpret the fact, it depends upon your social conditioning. For example, you go and watch a parade of LGBT community, right? And उसके बाद if your social conditioning will say कि ये liberal है या ये against society, fine, या against culture है. And this is always going to be the problem of empirical classifications. फिर भी climatic classifications are more objective in nature. जो बाकी के empirical classifications है, जो आपको अभी समझ में आएंगे in the thought, you will see that they are very, very subjective in nature. Fine. So it is an empirical classification. He, similar to Köppen, believed that temperature and precipitation are the most important factors. Don't write anything. Temperature and precipitation are the most important factors. He believed similar to the Köppen, but he gave more importance to evaporation. He gave more importance to evaporation. मतलब temperature है, but कितना temperature है, it is based on how much that temperature is able to evaporate from the surface. And because of the evaporation, he divides his climate into two, classification into two, that is the temperature provinces and humidity provinces. Means how much humidity is there in the atmosphere and how much temperature is there in the atmosphere. There is a temperature province. And for calculating the temperature provinces, he came up with the concept of thermal efficiency index. And for humidity provinces, he came up with the concept of the humidity index. Fine? फिर he revised his classification, and his entire classification later on was based on the concept of PE index, that is potential evapotranspiration index. Getting it? अब देखो past year questions, they have asked you only this much part अभी तक, they have not asked you इसके आगे, but you should be prepared for anything. Potential evaporation का question comes from this part, fine, the PE index वाला part. Getting it? So before we go to the Thornwright, तीन चीजें याद रखना. It is based on two, हमें आंसर दो टाइप में लिखना है, humidity provinces and the temperature provinces. Fine? So one point of the Thornwright's classification. Spelling should be very, very proper. Thornwright classification. Thornwright's classification is complex and empirical. Is complex and empirical. Empirical. Which attempts to define the climatic boundaries quantitatively मतलब ये यहाँ तक ये बाउंड्री है, वहाँ तक ये बाउंड्री है, not qualitatively, quantitatively, as per latitudes, quantitatively, based on plants associations, based on plants associations. Based on plants associations. Next. He presented the first classification in 1931. He presented the first classification in 1931. When he published the climatic map of North America. And he published the climatic map of North America. And later on revised the 31 classification. And later on presented a revised classification. Presented a revised classification. In 1948. In 1948. Exam में there can be three kind of questions. 1931 classification short note, 1948 classification short note, या total classification. When it comes total classification, you have to write both 31 and 48. हाथ के मार्क्स है, कॉम्प्लेक्स है, इसलिए छोड़ के मत जाना. फाइन. कल से जो टॉपिक शुरू हो रहा है, इनफैक्ट इसके बाद से ही जो टॉपिक शुरू हो रहा है, आपको लगेगा जीएस पढ़ रहे हैं, मार्क्स कभी इन टॉपिक्स में नहीं आएंगे. फाइन. मार्क्स, if you want to be a topper, your this 3 chapters should be very strong. Getting it? That is why you have taken geography as an optional. Not to tell world distribution of population, not to tell hunger problems in the world, not to tell energy crisis in the world. Getting it? Next point. And I gave you an example of Suraj, a student जिसने लास्ट अटेम्प्ट में फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी से ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी स्विच किया एंड उसके कैसे मार्क्स ड्रास्टिकली डिक्रीज हो गए 5th अटेम्प्ट में. 6th अटेम्प्ट में अनफॉर्चुनेटली यू कुड नॉट क्लियर द एग्जाम. नेक्स्ट 1931 क्लासिफिकेशन. 1931 classification. First point. Like Koppen, he believed that natural vegetation of a region is an indicator of climate. Natural vegetation of a region is an indicator of climate. But also strongly believed, underline the word strongly believed, that evaporation as an important factor. Evaporation as an important factor. Evaporation as an important factor. So क्या extra addition है इसमें? Evaporation, right? Evaporation will be determined by, can I say evaporation will be determined by, सबसे पहले if this is a land, how much amount of rainfall is falling, fine, कितना moisture है available, and secondly कितना sunlight है available, fine. So it will both determine the amount of evaporation. If the sunlight is greater and the precipitation is less, desert. If the precipitation is more and the insolation is less, then the tropical evergreen forest, fine. So therefore he divides the 31 ka classification into 2, precipitation effectiveness and thermal effectiveness. Very easy to understand. वो evaporation में believe करता है, therefore he divides it into precipitation and temperature, fine. So that is the next point. Therefore Thornwhite used 2 factors. Precipitation effectiveness and temperature effectiveness. For determining the climatic boundaries. for determining the climatic boundaries. सबसे पहले precipitation effectiveness. Don't write this equation अभी. Precipitation effectiveness. आंसर ऐसे ही लिखना है. Precipitation effectiveness, उसके बाद temperature effectiveness. Precipitation effectiveness मतलब the amount of precipitation that is available for the plant growth. Fine. Precipitation effectiveness मतलब how much effective the precipitation is. तो to calculate how much effective the precipitation is, उसने सबसे पहले P by E ratio निकाला. P by E ratio means 11.5 is to rainfall upon temperature minus 10 divided by 10 by 9. Q10 लिया, Q10 by 9 लिया, he only knows. Fine, don't worry into that, why it is there. That is one point of criticism. And then precipitation effect ratio निकाल के he calculates the entire precipitation for a year. And therefore it is the summation of I, month, is equal to 1 to 12 upon R by T minus 10 divided by 10 by 9. And based on this, he divides the provinces into A, B, C, D, E, just like the Köppen. Fine? वो divide करेगा A, B, C, D, E. फिर वो temperature effectiveness निकालेगा. Fine? And he will divide the provinces on the basis of temperature effectiveness into A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, E dash. Dash means temperature. And the climate of a region can be rainfall, summer dry, winter dry, monsoon. Fine? So the climate can be A dash R, A dash M, A, B dash S, W, H. Understanding? That is why his classification becomes complex. Getting it? So next, precipitation effectiveness. It is the amount of precipitation, amount of total precipitation which is available for plant growth. Which is available for plant growth. Available for plant growth. To calculate the precipitation effectiveness, Thornwhite suggested P by E index. P by E index given by following equation. P by E मतलब precipitation upon evaporation. Given by following equation. Don't draw the नीचे वाला this thing अभी. Can I continue? P by E index, where R is mean monthly rainfall, T is mean monthly temperature. Mean monthly temperature. Understanding? Precipitation upon evaporation. Fine. Based on this, he identified 5 humidity provinces. 5 humidity provinces. अब ये डायग्राम बना सकते हो. Make the diagram quickly and then I will tell you क्या है इसमें. किस डिग्री सेल्सियस एंड फ़ारेनहाइट्स. टेम्परेचर को डिग्री सेल्सियस में, रेनफॉल को इंचेस में. मैथमेटिशियन, यही तो गलती है इसकी, मैथमेटिशियन नहीं है. पर वैसे भी टेम्परेचर और रेनफॉल को आप इक्वेट कैसे कर सकते हो? कर ही नहीं सकते. इसलिए तो इसका क्रिटिसिज्म यही है. आगे क्रिटिसिज्म, ये कॉम्प्लेक्स इक्वेशन क्या है, कैसे उसने इक्वेट किया. कैन आई कंटिन्यू? अब ए क्या था इन कोपेन? ट्रॉपिक्स, मतलब वेट या सेमी वेट. वेट. व्हाट वाज बी? डेजर्ट. व्हाट वाज सी? टेम्परेट. अब इसमें क्या है? A is wet, B is humid, C is, understanding the deviation, कहाँ पे deviate हो गया? B does not stand for dry, it stands for humid. C is semi-humid. You will have to write this way. D is semi-arid and E is arid. Is arid. And precipitation effectiveness if it is more than 100%, 127, तो वहाँ पे wet climate होगा. मतलब precipitation is more than evaporation. Understanding P by E ratio. P अगर precipitation ज़्यादा है तो ही तो ये value ज़्यादा होगी. Fine? उसके बाद do it half, 64 to 127. उसके बाद do it half, 32 to 64. उसके बाद do it half, 16 to 31 या 32, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा. And then less than 60. Getting it? And this is what he calls as rainforest. This is forest, deciduous. This is grassland. This is steppe. Temperate grassland is different from tropical grasslands. Fine, steppe, and the last is desert. Very easy. 127 ये वैल्यू याद रखनी है. इवन इफ यू डोंट रिमेंबर द इक्वेशन कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, बट इक्वेशन अगर याद है तो 1 या 2 मार्क्स एक्स्ट्रा मिलेंगे. फाइन. Then you make a diagram table and show A, B, C, D. Wet से शुरू करो, wet के बाद it is humid, humid के बाद it is semi-humid, and then semi-arid, arid, 127, 64, 32, 16, less than 16, rainforest, deciduous forest or forest, grasslands, steppe and deserts. Fine. These are the provinces. जहाँ पे precipitation effectiveness is greater than 100, it is the rainforest. Understanding everyone? Clear? Next point. He further divides them. He further divides them. He further divides them into 20 sub-humidity zones. Into 20 sub-humidity zones. 20 sub-humidity zones. हर एक को वो 5-5 में डिवाइड करेगा, 4-4 में डिवाइड करेगा, and thus it becomes 20 zones based on small r, adequate rain in all seasons, small d, rain deficit in all seasons, small s क्या होगा? Deficit rain in summers, small w, deficit rain in winters. In all seasons. Deficit rain in all seasons. What? All are small. R, D, S and W all are small. Giving rise to, this gives rise to, full stop, this gives rise to 20 humidity provinces. Example, this gives rise to 20 humidity provinces. एक ही एग्जाम्पल लिखना, सब कुछ लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. AR, AS, AD, fourth AW. Understanding? कैसे होगा वो? So there will be 20 provinces based on CR, CS, CD, CW, DR, DS, DD, DW, ER, ES, ED, EW. These are the 20 humidity provinces. कितने क्लाइमेट्स हो गए? 20. Fine. And see how it is more nearer to reality. If you say AM है, India kind of climate, Kerala will come in AR. Fine. Tamil Nadu will come in AS. Rest of the India may come in AW. Rajasthan will come in AD. ऐसे नहीं एक ही है इंडिया में AM टाइप ऑफ क्लाइमेट. गेटिंग इट? मैंने एग्जांपल दिया इंडिया का. यू आर एब्सेंट इन कोपेन, इसलिए कुछ टॉपिक्स क्लास में ही क्लियर होते हैं. वीडियो तो ये अच्छा होता है बट इट इज बेस्ट इन द classroom. When you have access to the classroom, always come to the classroom. Thermal effectiveness. Thermal effectiveness. Or temperature effectiveness. Thermal effectiveness or temperature effectiveness. As he believed that temperature has an important contribution on vegetation. He gave the concept of temperature or thermal effectiveness index. Temperature or thermal effectiveness, full stop. It is the departure, it is the positive departure of mean monthly temperature. It is the positive departure of mean monthly temperature from the freezing point. मतलब 0 डिग्री से कितना ज़्यादा टेम्परेचर है, that is the temperature effectiveness, mean monthly temperature from the freezing point. Understanding? Departure of mean monthly temperature from the freezing point, which is given by T/E index. It is given by T/E index. See, what is the trick in the exam? Trick in the exam is always you should carry some micro notes जो क्लास में जाने से पहले आप रिवाइज करोगे. फाइन, उसमें ये कोपेन का डायग्राम, पेन का डायग्राम, छोटा एक पेज पे ही सब कुछ, ताकि अगर क्वेश्चन आया, एंड मैं क्या करता था, जाते ही ये सब चीज़ें जो आंसर, जो क्वेश्चन पेपर मिलता है हमें, उसमें पेंसिल से लिख देता था ताकि मैं भूलूंगा नहीं. अंडरस्टैंडिंग? बिकॉज दिस आर I used to do even that for prelims. I always get confused in DPSP. So I used to just revise it before. Keywords I used to write जाते ही अंदर. सब कुछ होता है, मतलब करने का एक तरीका होता है, छुपके से एकदम दिखाओ कि you are very engrossed. एग्जामिनर कुछ नहीं कहेगा. Getting it? Based on this, I guess you know what is T, temperature, 32Q value, Fahrenheit, divided by 4 seasons, fine. Based on this, he divided the world into 6 temperature provinces. He divided the world into 6 temperature provinces. 6 temperature provinces as given below. You can write down. ये सेम कोपेन जैसा है. Cool temperate is microthermal. You make this little bit bigger. Fine. ऐसे मत आने देना एग्जाम में. And frost. A dash 127 मतलब more than 100% departure from 0 degree Celsius is tropical. उसके बाद the mesothermal, that is subtropical, microthermal, taiga, tundra. Tundra is periglacial, so हमेशा 0 degree नहीं होता है temperature, and frost is glacial, 0 departure. हमेशा temperature will be around 0 degree Celsius. Very easy if you try to understand. क्या याद रखना है? ह्यूमिडिटी एंड टेम्परेचर. टेम्परेचर 6 है, उसमें 5 थे. Here there are 6. What is extra is frost. E F is the frost. Fine. And then he has दोनों 127 से ही है. E F वहाँ का is the frost. Fine. So based on this, that is P by E index, comma T by E index, T by E index, and seasonal distribution of rainfall. And seasonal distribution of rainfall. He identified 32 climatic types. He identified 32 climatic types. ब्रैकेट में लिखना, दो 127 combinations are possible. Though 127 combinations are possible. सब लिखने की जरूरत नहीं. एग्जाम्पल यू कैन राइट 2-3. कोई भी, मैं आपको बहुत सारा दे रहा हूं. You can write anything, fine. No need of making the table also. You can, जो आपको अच्छा लग रहा है वो लिख लो. Example A-A-R, A-B-R, B-A-W, जो अच्छा लग रहा है वो लिखो. So you write like this. Example A-A-R, A-B-R, B-A-W, D-, etc. No need of making the table. Finished. His 1931 का classification is done. Easy है? Fine. So can you tell me what are the important features, positives भी, negatives भी? एक लाइन आपने लिखी है, P by E index, T by E index and seasonal distribution of rainfall. Underline that. ये सबसे important है. In the examination also do that. This we have written as a criticism of Köppen, but here he takes into account seasonal distribution of the rainfall indirectly. Because if he is calculating temperature effectiveness and precipitation effectiveness, मतलब automatically आ जाता है उसमें the seasonal distribution of the rainfall. Getting it? So first point. In addition to Köppen's temperature and precipitation, it also takes into account precipitation effectiveness, thermal effectiveness, and seasonal distribution of rainfall. Seasonal distribution of rainfall. Next point, similar to Köppen, it is based on vegetation. It is based on vegetation types of vegetation. Third, unlike Köppen, he uses moisture for classifying cool climates. Example, tundra type of climate has subclassification of E A-D. Tundra type of climate has a subclassification of E A-D. Full stop. देखो इसका मतलब ये है, इन सिंपल वर्ड्स, एग्जाम्पल नहीं लिखा एग्जाम में तो भी चलेगा. Kilimanjaro, Mount Everest, ice caps and glaciers, tundra type of climate. E dash is tundra, fine, based on temperature. E is arid, based on precipitation. मतलब he uses this even to classify the cool climate. Cool climate according to him is arid, A-D, rainfall deficit in all seasons, fine. Next point. Sorry, I made you write E A-D. E dash D. Cancel that example. E A-D is desert. E arid. A dash tropical. Fine. D rainfall deficit in all seasons. वो desert है. Second example लिखना. दूसरा example लिखना. Sorry. leave some space, let me think of an example. Next, though the classification is more comprehensive, though the classification is more comprehensive, having more climatic types, but it uses lesser letters and symbols than Köppen. It uses lesser letters and symbols than Köppen. Right? He is using lesser letter symbols. A या A dash, B या B dash, F नहीं है, M नहीं है. Getting it? He is using lesser letters, तो इसलिए confusion का scope कम है. Limitations. Similar to Köppen, it is not, मैं जानबूझ के similar division दे रहा हूँ ताकि exam में आया similarities and differences you should know. Fine. Similar to Köppen, it is empirical. It is empirical. Full stop. As they do not deal with, as they, मतलब दोनों, as they do not deal with origin or genesis, as they do not deal with origin or genesis, they neglect the role of air masses. They neglect the role of air masses. Comma, interplay of elements of the weather. Interplay of elements of the weather. Interplay of elements of the weather, and hence are not useful for meteorologist and climatologist. Understanding the meaning of this statement? Climatologist को कहाँ से आ रही है हवा, कैसे आ रही है, what is the jet stream, how much is the heating, he is interested in that. ये कुछ नहीं कह रहे, ये सिर्फ बता रहे कि हाँ हाँ हमने यहाँ देखा है. याद रखना, they can ask you a question कि, or you should also remember they are basically, Köppen and Thornwright are more useful to botanists and zoologists and not useful to geographers. Why? Because geography is concerned with interplay. This is concerned with how vegetation is there, why it is there. Fine? They are not concerned कि climate change से कैसा vegetation वो सब होगा. That is the role of geography. Getting it? Next point. Because of its empirical nature, it is not of much practical use such as prediction of weather. It is not of much practical use such as prediction of weather. Impact of global warming, etc. Getting it? Impact of global warming, etc. Understanding this point, everyone? अब his 1948 का classification, which is considered to be the most valuable contribution, but also one of the most toughest. He revised his entire contribution. He has revised his entire concept. अभी तक समझ में आया है? I am quickly revising. क्या करता है वो? Moist precipitation and temperature effectiveness. Precipitation A, B, C, D, E. Fine. 127 से 16 तक जाता है. And tropical, sorry, wet, humid, subhumid, sub-arid and arid. Fine. उससे वो, then he says R, D, W, N, S. Fine. Rainfall deficit D, rainfall in all seasons, no rainfall deficit R, W, rainfall deficit in winters, S, rainfall deficit in summers. फिर he comes to the temperature effectiveness. Even if you don't remember the equation, don't worry. Fine. And he makes that A dash, B dash, C dash, E dash, F dash. F dash is extra, frost. Fine. Then sim 127 say he comes till 0, and then he comes from tropical, megathermal, mesothermal, microthermal, taiga, tundra and frost. And based on this, there are 120 combinations possible, but he tells there are only 32 combinations. Khatam answer. Fine. 1948 ka classification is totally different because he did not use the earlier concepts. He introduced a concept of potential evapotranspiration. What is this concept of potential evapotranspiration? उसका climatic classification तो reject हो गया. It is no longer studied much. Indian books में है. You will not find that in the foreign author का books. But his concept of potential evapotranspiration is the most important. Rainfall के कितने chances है in particular locality is potential evapotranspiration. Understanding? How whether there will be a chance of rainfall or not in a particular locality is potential evapotranspiration. Are we changing the potential evapotranspiration of the earth? Yes, by cutting the trees. See, it is not potential evaporation. That means even the moisture is lost from the trees and we are changing it. Getting it? Fine. Potential evapotranspiration ka he introduced the concept in 1948 ka classification. So 1948 classification, he proposed a new classification of climate. He proposed a new classification of climate based on the concept of potential evapotranspiration. Based on potential evapotranspiration. In his second classification, rather than taking vegetation, PE, potential evapotranspiration, you can write PE capitals mein, was utilized. Next point. Potential evapotranspiration is the amount of moisture. Potential evapotranspiration is the amount of moisture that would be transferred to the atmosphere by evaporation plus transpiration from the plants. Transpiration from the plants. Full stop. Read the statement again. Plus transpiration. Transpiration, T-R-A-N-S-P-I-R-A-T-A-O-N, transpiration from plants. That is the loss of water from the plants. Right? So what is potential evapotranspiration? Loss of water from the ground plus from the plants. Fine? उसमें पहले दोनों कौन सी इंडाइसेस थी? प्रेसिपिटेशन इफेक्टिव इंडेक्स एंड द टेम्परेचर इंडेक्स. अब पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन में दोनों इंडेक्स आ जाती है. मीन्स बोथ द इंडेक्सेस आर प्रेजेंट इन द पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन बिकॉज हाउ मच अमाउंट ऑफ मॉइस्चर विल बी लॉस्ट विल बी डिपेंड अपॉन हाउ मच स्ट्रॉन्ग द सनलाइट इज एंड हाउ मच इज द प्रेसिपिटेशन. गेटिंग इट? कितना मॉइस्चर इज लॉस्ट फ्रॉम द सॉइल डिपेंड्स ऑन पहले how much moisture is there. How much moisture will be lost from the soil depends upon how much moisture is there, that is precipitation, and strength of the sunlight, that is temperature. So dono comes in potential evapotranspiration. Earlier both of his indices. Getting it? Next point. Thus the PE, potential evapotranspiration, is an index of both thermal efficiency, and loss of water, full stop. It depends upon the energy received from the sun. It depends upon the energy received from the sun and is given as P is equal to 1.6. On 10T divided by I. मैंने बहुत सिंपल करके दिया है. ए का अलग डेरिवेशन है. फाइन. सो उस हमें मैथमेटिकल मॉडल्स में नहीं जाना है, हमें तो ह्यूमिडिटी प्रोविंसेस देखनी है. हर बुक में आपको ये इक्वेशन अलग मिलेगा बिकॉज इट डिपेंड्स अपॉन कौन से स्टेज का इक्वेशन वो लिख रहे हैं. T मतलब temperature in degree Celsius. I means the sum of temperature of 12 months. किसका sum of 12 months? Of T divided by 5 raised to 1.514. ये कैसे आता है उसका एक अलग इक्वेशन है. Fine, but then it will become an answer of maths, not of geography. We should not go into that. And A is complex function of I. There is a method by which A will be further calculated. Fine. Can I continue? To determine the boundaries of different climate, determine the boundaries of different climate. Thornwhite developed 4 indices. Thornwhite developed 4 indices. Moisture index, depend upon moisture. पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन जो अभी हमने पढ़ा है, और which is also known as thermal efficiency index. Fine. Third, humidity, sorry, aridity and humidity index. And fourth, index of concentration of thermal efficiency. ये 4 इंडेक्स है. कौन से? मॉइस्चर इंडेक्स, पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन इंडेक्स, एरिडिटी या ह्यूमिडिटी इंडेक्स, एंड कितना कॉन्सेंट्रेटेड है थर्मल एनर्जी. राइट? अभी तक आर यू फॉलोइंग? बिकॉज अब कॉम्प्लेक्स होने वाली ये चीजें. जस्ट हैव अ फ्लो चार्ट ऑफ व्हाट वी हैव डन. क्लियर? अब वो ह्यूमिडिटी इंडेक्स लेगा, मॉइस्चर इंडेक्स लेगा एंड ह्यूमिडिटी प्रोविंसेस बनाएगा. फिर उसके बाद प्रेसिपिटेशन, पोटेंशियल इवेपोरेटिव ट्रांसपिरेशन इंडेक्स लेगा और उसके प्रोविंसेस बनाएगा. फिर वो डिवाइड करेगा ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ एरिडिटी एंड ह्यूमिडिटी, 3 प्रोविंसेस, 3 एरिडिटी, 3 ह्यूमिडिटी, and on the basis of concentration of thermal efficiency he will make another index, and the final climate of a region will be combination of A dash R, D dash W. Means ये 4 indices के combination. Understanding? So next you will understand once we complete. Based on the humidity provinces, sorry, based on the moisture index, based on moisture index, Thornwhite identified 9 humidity provinces. Thornwhite identified 9 humidity provinces. Based on moisture index, he identified 9 humidity provinces as shown below. means very humid, A, the same as tropical. Fine. Moisture index is 100% moisture है यहाँ पे. Second, 20 to 100% moisture कहाँ पे है? Third, 0 to 20% moisture कहाँ पे है? Fourth, 0 से कितना कम moisture है? It is less than -33 or less than -67 or less than -100. This is simple. A, per humid, B, humid, C, moist, subhumid, D, dry, subhumid, because it depends upon temperature effectiveness. Temperature कम है इसलिए these regions are moist. Even though the moisture is less, temperature is less. England, semi-arid, and arid. And arid. कितने मॉइस्चर प्रोविंसेस हैं? 9. कैसे 9? A, B1 to B4, C2, C1, T, E. D and E. %100% moisture per humid. 20 to 100% humid depending upon B1 to B4 अलग अलग. उसके बाद 0 to 2 moist subhumid. उसके बाद माइनस लेस देन 0 मॉइस्चर ड्राई सबह्यूमिड. सॉरी 0 to 20. -67 to -33 semi arid, -100 to -67 arid. Can I continue? हो गया लिख के? Things are very easy if you can correlate. कितने इंडाइसेस है? 4. एरिडिटी एंड ह्यूमिडिटी इंडेक्स उसमें से एक है. ह्यूमिडिटी इंडेक्स में ये 3 प्रोविंस आएंगी, एरिडिटी इंडेक्स में ये 3 प्रोविंसेस आएंगी. अंडरस्टैंडिंग? बहुत सिंपल है. A, B and C2 type of climate will come in humid provinces. C1, D and E type of climate will come in the aridity provinces. Getting it? E type of climate means tundra या Sahara. वो तो डिपेंड करता है ऑन द नेक्स्ट इंडेक्स, प्रेसिपिटेशन, टेम्परेचर इफेक्टिवनेस इंडेक्स. ये तो ड्राई रीजन है. अब ड्राई कैन बी कोल्ड डेजर्ट, ड्राई कैन बी हॉट डेजर्ट. फाइन. नेक्स्ट. परसेंटेज मतलब पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन के लिए देयर इज नो मॉइस्चर. टुंड्रा से ज़्यादा गोबी डेजर्ट, मंगोलिया, चाइना का ऊपर का पार्ट या तिब्बत, ये वाला ड्राई कोल्ड डेजर्ट रीजन्स. Thermal efficiency index. Thermal efficiency index is nothing but potential evapotranspiration. Is nothing but potential evapotranspiration. Next, aridity and humidity index. पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन हो गया, उसको हम कहेंगे टीई इंडेक्स, फाइन। और लास्ट इंडेक्स कौन सा बचा है? कॉन्सेंट्रेशन ऑफ थर्मल एफिशिएंसी, दैट इज नथिंग बट टीई का परसेंटेज। aridity and humidity index. He uses this index to calculate seasonal distribution of moisture adequacy. Seasonal distribution of moisture adequacy, मतलब how much adequate the moisture is, fine. Seasonal distribution of moisture adequacy or adequate amount of moisture, and divides the climates into moist climates A, B, C2 and dry climates. C1, D and E. पहले उसने मॉइस्चर निकाला, फाइन, फिर कितना एडिक्वेट मॉइस्चर है कि नहीं ये देख रहा है। अंडरस्टैंडिंग कैसे देख रहा है? इट इज बेस्ड ऑन पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन, फाइन। Moist climates and dry climates, full stop, in the same point. He further divides these climates. Into 10 subclimatic types. कुछ काम ही नहीं था लगता है मुझे भी कभी कभी। Into 10 subclimatic types using following symbols. R, rainfall throughout the year. He calls this as little or no water deficit. S, moderate summer deficit. W सब छोटे में है। moderate winter deficit. Fine. Can I continue? RWS, uni beach words. Based on this, the climates are, you draw with me like this. Imagine करो टेक्स्ट बुक्स में कितना टफ होगा ये. See, humid climates are based on aridity index. कितनी aridity है? If the aridity index is between 0 to 10, मतलब aridity is only between 0 to 10%, means there is no moisture deficit. Fine? 0% aridity means पूरा moisture है. S summer deficit between 10 to 20%. W winter deficit between 10 to 20%. Fine? S2 acute summer deficit greater than 20%. W2 acute winter deficit greater than 20%. So based on the aridity index, he calculates humidity provinces. Fine? Based on aridity index, he calculates humidity provinces, and based on humidity index, he will calculate deserts. कि कितनी humidity है, कितनी नहीं है. Understanding why it is rejected. So instead of studying the climate, you will keep on making the equations only. He is not at all wrong. He is the most right. वही है Penck, इसीलिए. He is perfect. He is the one who is perfectly right, in fact. Can I continue? Dry climates it is C1, D and E. Dry climates C1, D and E. C1, D and E are calculated on the basis of humidity index as shown below. Are calculated on the basis of humidity index as shown below. कैन आई कंटिन्यू? डी एस सेम वही है, सिर्फ आर के बदले क्या आ जाएगा, वहां पे आर है रेनफॉल, यहाँ पे डेजर्ट है ड्राई क्लाइमेट, सो डी एस डब्ल्यू S2 W2. D, there is no water surplus because water is between 0 to 16%. Fine. Humidity कितनी है? 0 to 16% के बीच. S has summer deficit, याद रखना. So इसलिए dry provinces में S हो जाएगा moderate winter surplus. First right. See, this is the toughest part of entire geography. Geomorphology की theories में logic है, इसमें there is no logic. That is why we feel it is tough. At least answer कैसे लिखना है समझ में आ गया? बस वही चाहिए. In Rajendra you will find this is being taught only in the regular classes only by 2 teachers. That is, one is me, I will not take the name of other teacher. बाकी के the famous teachers छोड़ देते इसको. But it should not be done. Himanshu also takes this very properly. कोई reason नहीं. Yes. See, deficit में S is summer deficit. यहाँ पे moderate winter surplus. मतलब summer deficit ही है, winter में surplus है पानी. Fine. Next. Concentration of thermal efficiency index. Concentration of thermal efficiency index. You can write in the bracket TE percentage. Potential evapotranspiration का percentage. Can I continue? It is a percentage of mean, it is a percentage of essay classification. It is the percentage of mean annual potential evapotranspiration. Mean annual potential evapotranspiration during the summer months. During the summer months. During the summer months. Based on this, 9 thermal provinces were identified. Based on this, 9 thermal provinces were identified. Based on this, 9 thermal provinces were identified as shown below. It's very easy. अंडरस्टैंडिंग B1 to B4 थे मॉइस्चर प्रोविंसेस, यहाँ पे सिर्फ डैश एक्स्ट्रा लग जाएंगे. So, on the basis of thermal efficiency greater than 114 is the temperature percentage में मेगा थर्मल, फिर मेसोथर्मल. ये सब ह्यूमिड थे, वो पर ह्यूमिड थे, फाइन. ये ह्यूमिड था B1 to B4, ये सब ह्यूमिड था. So same it is dash. So understanding A से moisture index, right? A dash से thermal efficiency index, R S W से aridity या humidity index, right? Can I continue? They were further subdivided into they were further subdivided into 8 different provinces. They are further subdivided into 8 different provinces. By using small alphabets such as A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, etc. etc. Getting it? Next point. Thus, the climate of a place, was determined by calculating or by combining the 4 elements mentioned above. Four elements mentioned above. Example, impossible है इसके climatic types याद रखना. Fine, just take one example. Fine, I'll quickly revise 1948 का classification. क्या क्या लिखना है आपको? It is based on potential evapotranspiration. Fine. Define potential evapotranspiration and if possible give equation. फिर 4 indices. Which are the one is the moisture index. He divides the climates into A, B, C, D, E. Right? Second index, potential evapotranspiration only. Third index, humidity or aridity index. And based on this, he divides them into R, S, D and W. And lastly, thermal efficiency index, in which he divides the climates into A dash, B dash, C dash, D dash, E dash, which are further divided into smaller A, B, C dash. And final climate is combination of all the 3 elements. Fine, बहुत आसान है once you finish it. Depending upon how long the question is, choice is yours कि टेबल बनाने हैं कि नहीं. पहले 2 टेबल बनाओ, बाकी जल्दी जल्दी खत्म करो. Question will be separate on 1948 classification. Question will be separate on 1931 classification. Single question नहीं आ सकता because maximum question nowadays comes for 25 marks. That is in optional 25 marks मतलब 300 words. In GS 225 marks means 250 words. Fine? Getting it? So that is the Thornwhite. पहले humidity provinces, temperature provinces, 48 का classification में these 4 provinces. Fine, and he comes to the final conclusion based on this. वो अलग टॉपिक है, उसका एप्लीकेशन अप्लाइड क्लाइमेटोलॉजी में देखना पड़ेगा उसका, बट ये स्टार्ट यहीं से होगा. Can I continue? Critical analysis or evaluation of 1948 scheme. Evaluation of 1948 scheme. First, evaluation of 1948 scheme. हमने अलग अलग किया है. Evaluation of 1931 कर लिया है. It is highly complex. It is highly complex. Due to large number of climatic types. Highly complex due to large number of climatic types. Full stop, same point. Though the scheme has been applied successfully, to many regions, due to many inputs or elements, world map cannot be prepared. World map could not be prepared. Which defeats the purpose of geographical studies. Getting the first point? Second point. Even in the second classification, the causative factors, CAUSATIV, causative factors, such as air masses and jet streams have been ignored. Air masses and jet streams have been ignored. Third, the data of potential evapotranspiration. Cannot be or is not easily available, for all the regions of the world. Getting it? कैसे डिटरमाइन करोगे ईच एंड एवरी रीजन पे कितना पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन है? रेनफॉल तो डिटरमाइन हो जाएगा, इज नॉट इजीली अवेलेबल फॉर ऑल द रीजन्स ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. सिंपल लैंग्वेज याद रखना कि पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन कैन नॉट बी कैलकुलेटेड. द लास्ट पॉइंट, formulas, complex calculations, make his scheme complicated and therefore it is rarely used. इसमें एक पॉजिटिव है, याद रखना. पॉजिटिव इज gave the concept of potential evapotranspiration, which is used to determine बार बार आपने सॉइल मॉइस्चर बैलेंस सब पढ़ा होगा, किसान क्रेडिट कार्ड स्कीम, ये सब. इट इज बेस्ड ऑन द कंसेप्ट ऑफ पोटेंशियल इवेपोट्रांसपिरेशन. See, the one who is correct will always be complex, right? How is Köppen different from Thornwhite in the second classification? Köppen is different from, or Thornwhite is different from Köppen in second classification. He does not, 1948 के classification में, he does not take vegetation as a input. He takes potential evapotranspiration as an input. Fine. Second classification, you should remember, is not based on vegetation. Yes, has to be, इसलिए दे रहा हूँ. पहले क्लासिफिकेशन में he was similar to Köppen, second में he differentiated from Köppen. Can I continue? One of the most eminent climatologists of the times, Trevartha, gave his classification as a response to Köppen's classification. उसी ने कहा no classification is important in geography जिसके ऊपर वर्ल्ड मैप नहीं बन सकता या जो नॉर्मल जोग्राफर्स को समझ में नहीं आता. There is a difference between geographers and climatologists. Climatologists are scientists. Geographers are humanities background के. Fine. So Trevartha was highly different and he simplified the Köppen's classification and gave his classification, which is the most important classification today we use. Fine. So Trevartha, yes, 1948 के इसमें भी दिया था, वर्ल्ड मैप नहीं दे पाया. His climatic classification is true only exactly in North America. His classification does not apply to the tropical and subtropical regions, equatorial regions, Thornwhite का. पर मैं कितने पॉइंट्स दूंगा इसलिए नहीं लिखा है नहीं. अगर रनिंग पॉइंट एक लेना है तो याद रखना, Thornwhite का classification exactly applies to North America, but it is not successful in tropical and subtropical regions. Can I continue? Trevartha, an American climatologist, produced several modifications to Köppen's classification. Köppen's classification with the aim of first aim, presenting simple and basic scheme of classification of world's climate. Second, इतना परेशान हो गया था थॉर्नवाइट से कि he said it has to be simple. Second, such scheme should be realistically identified. वो कह रहा है कि परफेक्ट नहीं होनी चाहिए, रियलिस्टिक होनी चाहिए, कि समझ में आए लोगों को, रियलिस्टिकली आइडेंटिफाइड एंड रिप्रेजेंटेड ऑन वर्ल्ड मैप and third, should not have complex calculations and large number of climatic types. He modified Köppen, he modified Thornwright. Thornwright को इसने criticize किया. Fine? Scheme or classification. He identified the climates. He identified the climates on basis of temperature and precipitation. Basis of temperature and precipitation. किसके नजदीक है फिर ये? Köppen is similar to Köppen. Next, he identified 6 major types of climates. He identified 6 major types of climates as shown below. As shown below. What was B in Thornwright? Was it dry? No. यहाँ पे क्या है? Dry. Similar to Köppen. A, B, C, D, E, F. इसमें one extra is there, F. That is the polar climate. I continue? A, B, C, D, E, F. Fine, no calculations, nothing in this. The climates were further subdivided into tropical climate, AF. Why? Equatorial regions, AW. याद रखना प्रीलिम्स के लिए ये पॉइंट, ट्रॉपिकल सवाना इज नोन एज ट्रॉपिकल वेट एंड ड्राई क्लाइमेट. AM, require 5 minutes more. सिर्फ लिखना थोड़ा ज़्यादा है. Can I continue? B type of climate. Which is dry. Why it is dry? Loss of moisture exceeds precipitation. W is smaller. कुछ भी अलग नहीं है फ्रॉम कोपेन, बाकी सब सेम है. ओनली थिंग इज कि ही फोकसेस ऑन जेनेसिस ऑल्सो. C type of climate. An isotherm of 18 degrees Celsius forms the boundary. Underline the word isotherm of 18 degrees Celsius forms the boundary. And on the basis of seasonal distribution, they are divided into of rainfall, they were divided into देखो थोड़ा चेंज हो गया, CR नहीं है, CA. It's known as British type. I'll stop here, we'll continue tomorrow. तो अभी क्लास है इसलिए we will wait. 2 ही बचा है. How many of you have geographical thought का कोई भी book? Which you have? माजिद हुसैन. बाकी किसी के पास नहीं है? You can buy माजिद हुसैन. In fact, you should buy माजिद हुसैन. उसमें से पूरा नहीं पढ़ना है. I'll tell you लास्ट के 4 चैप्टर्स. तो अगर किसी को खरीदना नहीं है, टेक माई बुक, xerox it and give it to me, because we don't require the entire thick book. We require only 3 chapters to be done from that. Fine? जिसके पास है you can, चलो I'll give you tomorrow only. जो मैं टॉपिक पढ़ाऊंगा वो जाके एक बार बुक में से पढ़ना है, because this is not science. अब हम कल से पूरा आर्ट्स पे आएंगे. थिंकिंग क्या कहते हैं, क्या नहीं, व्हाट इज डिटर्मिनिज्म एक्सेट्रा. फाइन, टॉपिक्स आर गोइंग टू बी इंटरेस्टिंग. थॉट ना ह्यूमन ज्योग्राफी नहीं, ज्योग्राफिकल थॉट एक अलग बुक है. समवन रिकमेंड्स आर.डी. दीक्षित, समवन रिकमेंड्स सुदीप्ता अधिकारी, समवन रिकमेंड्स माजिद हुसैन. फाइन. R.D. Dixit is also good, Sudipta Adhikari is also good, but the language is too complex. So I don't recommend it.